Hello and welcome to Billy Ho Sports. Kentucky Derby 150 is in the books. Before we take a look back at the race, I'm going to do an in-depth, do some slow-mo, point out a few things. It's going to be a pretty good, I think, recap. We'll talk a little Preakness. Just before we wanted to get in, before I wanted to get into that, I wanted to thank everybody for all the support, great comments, kind words. My goal was hopefully to get to 2,000 subscribers by the Triple Crown end, like the Belmont. Almost pulled it off by a Derby, fell just a little over 100 short. So if you have not subscribed, please do so. I'd love to get that, just get over that 2K hump as soon as possible. So thank you very much for that. Also, continue to smash that like button and leave me a comment and give me your thoughts, if anything, on the Kentucky Derby as a whole and Derby weekend. Maybe any thoughts on that. Preakness upcoming. We'll get into that as well. So make sure you hang around. I got the slow-mos on a couple of horses like Mystic Dan and Sierra Leone that point out some major factors that determine the outcome of the race. So away we go. Okay, Derby weekend on the Churchill Downs dirt and turf both were playing, in my mind, pretty unpredictable because of the rain on Friday. Came in there, softened up the turf. They sealed the track Friday, and one race would run 22 opening quarter, 44 half mile, but the speed would hold up down the stretch, and then they would come right back and run a race that would be reasonable fractions like 24:49, and then a horse come from off the pace to win. It was much the same, and the turf was really hard to predict when it was real soft too. But as Saturday began, I got a better idea and I started racking up some wins. I wanted to go over a couple of nice hits that I had on the Derby undercard, including that gift that is Dwayne Lucas. So anyway, the Pat Day mile sees the gray. Dwayne Lucas, number 5, goes off at like 9-1. So I was like, so that has to be my money back special bet. That's such a good value. Then I put him on top of or him in a three-way box with a couple other horses. And Classy Ride by Christian Torres down the stretch to get up. Pays 20 to win and then $80 for the $2 exacta. So that one was my best race of the day. Prior to that, I had a couple of nice ones. Chad Brown's Chili Flag ran that Distaff Turf and won it. And then the always impressive Vava won the Distaff Dirt over Alva Star. That rivalry is legit, but Vava seems to have the Churchill Downs on lock. So I got money off of that. So anyway, by the time post time for the Derby came, the track was absolutely perfect. I forget what I ended up settling on, but I had Mystic Dan. I had some way of I believe it was Fierceness, Catching Freedom, and Sierra Leone on top, and then underneath several horses. I don't even think I had Mystic Dan in the second place. I think I had him in the third. I didn't have Forever Young. So really when it came across, I had a lot of my top 10, I believe my top 6 horses were one of like Sierra Leone, Mystic Dan, and Catching Freedom, who ran fourth, who looked pretty good as well, but did not give Forever Young enough credit where it should have been due. So anyway, I got a little bit too high on Fierceness, but getting into the race, Fierceness broke well. The break was pretty clean across. Obviously, there's going to be bumping and whatnot through the. But he went to the lead, sat third in that pressing fashion. Opening quarter was quite reasonable, really, 22.97, almost 23 seconds flat. The half went in 46.63, so a little bit more than 46 and a half for the half. They could have been faster. It could have been low 22s or even 21.97, and the 46 could have been 45.5. So it was pretty reasonable. I believe three quarters was 111. So Fierceness ran his race. So no excuses for him tiring out coming down the stretch. But I didn't see him pre-race, and I didn't really think about listening close enough to the seeing the horses, because these horses, and it was pretty humid, and we'd had the rain and everything, so these horses were probably getting pretty lathered up as far as sweaty and had to be wiped down multiple times. So I don't really know what Fierceness' status was in that. But when you're sweating and anxiety and all that pre-race comes, it takes some energy out of you. So maybe he just didn't have as much pop down the stretch he could have. I don't know. He may have been just excited to get out there to the lead. But the way Mystic Dan I predicted he'd win is the exact way he won, because he had that three post position and he just ran straight out and just settled in first. And what I was amazed at, if you looked at the about the half mile marker, there's no other horses in front of him. He's got 3 lengths of space. He's got a little bubble that he's running in, so he can just maintain his own pace and feel the pressure behind him and move up when he needed to. And that's exactly what he did. Took his position. So when you slow it down through the far turn, just before they hit the stretch, you have to see Brian Hernandez. He shows a lot of great patience and some courage to maneuver his colt and leave him on the inside of Track Phantom to squeeze through that turn. So he really did. It was pretty damn tight. He almost had to come off the horse and slide down the rail there a little bit. But once he completed that squeeze play, he was clear and had gas in the tank down the stretch. The announcer didn't even notice it was him until after he realized it wasn't Resilience and Stronghold and Resilience taking the lead. It was Mystic Dan on the inside the whole time that had the lead and really had the race pretty well in hand right after that stretch run. We just didn't know it yet. Catching Freedom took the same line, but it took him a little longer to get through. And once he was in, he just didn't have the speed because of the horse that Brian Hernandez had left in the tank. He just didn't have the speed to catch up. But I thought he ran on well, and he finished fourth on the inside there. But the first big take of the race has to be Sierra Leone. What a great game plan. Did exactly what I thought. Got him up closer to the lead by the 1 mile mark. He was in exact perfect position, turning for home as he was in the bluegrass to make that big run down the stretch. And then it happened. He got into the bro down with Forever Young in the stretch, and he was leaning in. If you go back and watch, and I'll show you the Bluegrass Stakes, he leaned straight across the track all the way down to the lead horse and won that race. Well, he got into this bro down with Forever Young, and unlike Epic Ride just clearing out of his way, Forever Young wasn't having it. Forever Young pushed back the other direction, and the jockey, credit to the jock for doing that, holding his ground by Forever Young, holding his ground down that stretch and battling it with Sierra Leone. It kept Sierra Leone from winning that race because those two got so into beating each other. Both jockeys were trying to keep the horses off of one another. You can see Brian Hernandez or Tyler Gaffleone trying to keep excuse me, keep his horse straight and keep him away from moving to the left, which he's been trying to do. This has been a problem with Sierra Leone his whole career, that he tries to just bore inside like that down the stretch. And so instead of him running faster, he was just kind of clopping along, banging into Forever Young in the stretch. And by the time both of them realized that it was too late to try to catch, and so you could see Sierra Leone still just missed getting up late anyway. So if you'd imagine if he would have just had a clear path beyond Forever Young, that he would have been able to get there. But props to the Japan horses like Forever Young and also T.O. Password. He showed up very well, closed from pretty far back to get the 5th place. So shout out him. Stronghold seemed to run a pretty good race. He had his chance at the top of the stretch, but he couldn't hold up. He couldn't keep up down the stretch. These horses had a little more speed down the stretch because the quarter and a half were about a second and a half slower than it could have been. So that was interesting. Right on track with Track Phantom, not being able to get the distance. He led almost the whole way and then gave it up down the other way. But then Domestic Product, the horse I was not high on, people were high on. I looked at it, I pointed it out on X. He was not fast enough when he got pace. And the same thing happened. They got pace. And he was ran 15th in the back of the pack the entire race, basically. So he was no factor. Resilience, I give some credit for a pretty solid race. He was just outkicked in the stretch by the other five rivals, but he ran on pretty well. He didn't really give up the ghost. He just didn't have that late speed down the stretch that the others had. Didn't have the inside track like Mystic Dan. And so overall, I think we've been treated to some really excellent races in the 2020s in this decade with the 20 gate horse break. So makes things much cleaner, in my opinion. Congrats to Kenny McPeak, by the way. He's faced a lot of criticism over his career, disappointment as well, but he completes the Oaks Derby double. He had Torpedo. He trains Torpedo Anna, who won on Friday, and then obviously he trains Mystic Dan, who got the big win. And so he can hold his head up high now. He is definitely always been a good trainer, but now he has that signature victory. He's had a couple of Triple Crown wins in one Preakness, one Belmont, I do believe. I don't think he's ever won any Breeders' Cup races, tons of seconds and thirds, but this is definitely the signature win of his career. So now we move on to the Preakness. Prepare ourselves for the Baffert invasion. Muth and Imagination will ship to Pimlico for the 149th running of the Preakness. The Hall of Fame trainer confirmed that on Saturday. Dwayne Lucas may also send Seize the Gray, winner of the Pat Day Mile, as well as his Derby also ran Just Steel. I don't know. Dwayne runs them. He sent Just Steel out similarly off 3 weeks rest just a while back, and he flopped, and he didn't run very well in this race. I think this horse needs to be laid off for a couple of months. Give this horse a break. He's run 11 races in just over a year or so. So, come on, Dwayne. Anyway, last year, Mage was the only horse to make the second leg of the Triple Crown after winning the Kentucky Derby, and Mystic Dan could very well be in the same boat this year. Chad Brown has already confirmed Sierra Leone won't go. Brad Cox the same for Catching Freedom. The two Japan horses are heading back over. T.O. Password and Forever Young are going back to Japan this week. So we got a bunch of new shooters to talk about, and we'll get into those next video. I posted the probables list, and I put on a 5-star scale my interest in the horses. Obviously, Muth could be considered the best 3-year-old in the country, but didn't get the opportunity to prove it Derby Day. He's going to be the favorite in the Preakness. People have been talking about him coming out and dominating this race for a couple of months now, probably since he won the Arkansas Derby. Number one on my top 5 list, he would be. The post draw is Monday, so we'll know for sure who's in. The other Baffert horse, Imagination, will go. Very interesting horse. He was defeated by Stronghold in the Santa Anita Derby, but ran very well and very game down the stretch in that one. So, and then there's other horses like Tuscan Gold, I believe Mugatu, and several others. But they'll be doing the post draw on Monday, May 13th, so we'll know for sure then. Now, be on the lookout. We got stakes action this weekend. Belmont at the Big A Saturday is going to have 3 big stakes races, including the 9 furlong Peter Pan for 3-year-olds, which will have some of those horses that deferred the Derby and are running here. So Deterministic's in the race. There's a few others. So I'll get on that today, and we'll have something out for you very soon on those and the 2 other stakes races. So best of luck this week. Appreciate all the support. Keep it coming. Subscribe, like, comment. See you soon.